This archived podcast is the sole property of the producer of said podcast. It is available for private, non-commercial use only. You may not edit, modify, or redistribute this podcast.
The people that walked in darkness have seen a great light. They that dwell in the land of the shadow of death, upon them the light has shined. Yes, my brothers and sisters, this is the time the truth and the light is shining, and you are tuned in to the Good News Kingdom Road radio show, advertising the King Yahshua HaMashiach and his kingdom, and that he has been set over, which is the kingdom of Yahweh, which is the restoration of the nation of Israel, which is presently being called out of all tongues, tribes, and nation. Israel of promise, the children of Abraham, the children of faith. So we are thankful for this opportunity to be alive and to seek first his kingdom and to learn each week more and more. And so I'm very thankful myself to have this opportunity to speak to you all. Thank you for tuning in. This is your host, Joseph Israel. And I want to say, boy, it is hot out here on the West Coast. And, I love the summertime and really feeling good. Getting, lots of good sunshine and lots of time outside in creation. And I really just enjoy all the different phases of the weather because I know that it's all a gift from the Almighty. And so I hope everyone is feeling good today. And today's show, we're going to start where we left off last week, which was we were going over the second chapter of Daniel 2. Now, Daniel 2 is a prophecy. If you tuned in last week, then you'll kind of know where we were. But if you did not tune in, it's a prophecy concerning the last days, which most of the prophecies are. And it is actually a prophecy that has been misunderstood by many people who have had well-intentioned, for the most part, interpretations. But there has been some error there. What most people consider the true interpretation of Daniel 2 has actually missed the mark. And today we're going to go more into that. Daniel 2 is very relevant to our time that we're living in because it's in the midst of being fulfilled. And I pray that we get to see the fulfillment of the whole vision very soon, but all things in the Almighty's time, and no man knows the day nor the hour, but we do know that these things, and you will see that we are in the midst of fulfillment of prophecy. And it's very beautiful, and it's a message of hope because we are at a time of great change. And, a lot of people, when they hear of the last days, they get afraid or they think that you're speaking something negative. But actually, if you look around the world today, you've got to see the negative. If you don't see the negative that's going on, you're not looking, because what has happened is that very few have the majority of the wealth of this earth. There's a lot of lying and stealing. There's corruption of justice. The food supply, the water supply is being corrupted and has been corrupted. There's war and famines, pestilence. I mean, the disease outbreaks in the world right now are astronomical. Man has forgotten how to live in creation. The human race has forgotten their role as people and who they are to serve. And so anyways, we have ended up in a situation where we only have one hope, which is always the same hope that there ever really was to seek first the Almighty's kingdom. And so it is the good news of the kingdom that will be spread throughout the earth, that will be a witness unto all nations, and then the end will come. So let's get into Daniel 2. Let's see where we were. Probably start a few verses up. It all starts with Nebuchadnezzar's vision. And, I'm going to paraphrase a little bit. Nebuchadnezzar had a dream. It greatly disturbed him. He called all the religionists of his day, which were the magicians, the soothsayers, the astrologers, the Chaldeans, and he said to them, "Tell me the dream and tell me the interpretation." They said, "Tell us the dream and we'll tell you the interpretation." And he said, "If you can't tell me the dream and the interpretation, then I'm going to destroy all the wise men of Babylon." Well, some of the Judeans, some of the Israelites were actually held captive in Babylon at this time because of the disobedience of the children of Judah. And this was during the exile of the Babylon captivity. And Daniel was one of the young men that was actually considered one of the wise men. And he was going to be destroyed with them. But Daniel got the inspiration that the Almighty would give him the vision. He asked for time. He got the vision. He went before the king, and he told the king his dream. And he began to give him an interpretation. And so the dream and the interpretation is what we find in Daniel 2. Now, knowing that the dream, that this is for the last days, and that certain things were not revealed to the prophet Daniel and wouldn't be understood by Daniel or anyone else until the last days. And we find this to be true. We find in Daniel chapter 12, it says, "And go thy way, Daniel, for the words are closed up and sealed until the time of the end." So the book of Daniel, for the most part, couldn't be understood until the very last days. So Daniel wrote, you'll find many places in the book of Daniel that he saw, but he didn't understand. But he understood enough to explain to Nebuchadnezzar to satisfy him so that they would live. And actually, but this was written down for the benefit of everyone alive today who is here in the midst of this fulfillment. So let's actually start in verse, let's see here, Daniel 2 chapter. I guess I'm going to actually start in verse 31, and just we'll read the vision, and then we'll go over the vision. Verse 31 of Daniel 2. "Thou, O king, saw and behold a great image. This great image, whose brightness was excellent, stood before thee, and the form thereof was terrible. The image's head was of fine gold, and his breast and his arms of silver, his belly and his thighs of brass, his legs of iron, and his feet part of iron and part of clay. Thou sawest till a stone was cut out without hands, which smote the image upon his feet that were of iron and clay, and broke them to pieces. Then was the iron, the clay, the brass, the silver, the gold broken to pieces together, and became like the chaff of the summer threshing floors, and the wind carried them away, and that no place was found for them. And the stone that smote the image became a great mountain and filled the whole earth. This is the dream, and we will tell the interpretation thereof before the king." So this was an amazing dream. One of the key factors to understanding this is actually that the vision was seen in its entirety, standing all at once, and then it was hit at the feet by this stone, and it was demolished from the feet. Then the head crumbled and everything else. Everything fell once it was hit on the feet. That means it was standing all at once. It was one mighty image, and it represented something. And so does the stone that hit it, and then it turned into a great mountain and filled the whole earth. Well, that represents the kingdom of the Almighty. So this image that Nebuchadnezzar saw is the devil's organization of the heavenly portion and the earthly portion, because the devil is actually a spirit creature. He was an angel that corrupted himself. He was to be a righteous messenger, a covering cherub, but he actually corrupted himself and said he would be like the Most High. And he has created an organization in mimic of the Almighty. And it comes to fruition, full fruits in the last days, when he makes his last effort to control the human race and keep them in darkness to the Almighty's purpose. But as I read at the beginning, those that were in darkness have seen the great light. There's no way he can stop the light from shining out. And Yahweh so loved the world that he sent his only begotten Son, and that whosoever should believe in him should not perish. And it's going to take, when you believe in the Messiah Yahshua, you begin to follow him. And that's just the beginning, to understand that he came and he gave his life for you, and he was resurrected, and now he was raised to sit at the Father's right hand in heaven, and now he's been made the expressed image of his Father. And Yahshua, the Messiah, is there for you. Now that's the beginning. Who is he the king over? He's the king over Israel. So if he's your leader, you're an Israelite. And so this is actually, the Israelites are the meek that will inherit the earth. And they, you know, as I said earlier, they're the ones called out of all nations. So this is a nation of faith. It says, "Oh, open the gates." Isaiah says, "Open the gates and let enter the nation that keeps the faith, or the nation that keeps the truth." Yahshua said, "If you are my disciples, you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free." The angel told John in the book of Revelations that the spirit of Yahshua is the spirit of the testimony of Yahshua, the witness of Yahshua is the spirit of prophecy. Now, to understand the prophecies, Yahshua's children, they do understand the prophecies. Now, Yahweh reveals his secret unto his servants, the prophets. And it says he will do nothing without revealing his secret unto his servants, the prophets. So the prophets are Yahweh's spokesmen. And they were the leaders of Israel in the past, and they will be the leaders of Israel on this earth in these last days. So that actually means Daniel and Jeremiah and Abraham and Isaiah and Isaac and Jacob and Moses and David. These men will return for their rightful reward. If you notice, this will be a whole nother radio show, but if you notice, the prophets had never received the reward. They never had a heavenly promise, but they were promised an earthly reward. And we'll get into that. But the prophets are to be the leaders on this earth, and the Messiah and his bride to rule from the heavens. So anyways, back to this vision. We have that Daniel is going to tell the king the vision. Okay, verse 37. "Thou, O king, art a king of kings. For the God of heaven has given thee a kingdom, power, strength, and esteem. And wherever the children of men dwell, and the beasts of the field, and the fowls of the heaven, has he given into thy hand, and thou has made thee ruler over them all. Thou art this head of gold." So this is the king Nebuchadnezzar. Daniel says, "You are the head of gold," so to speak. So now... but it's not really that it was Nebuchadnezzar, but notice that most people who interpret this to be that the head of gold is the kingdom of Babylon, they don't interpret it to be Nebuchadnezzar, they interpret it to be the kingdom of Babylon, but it wasn't the kingdom of Babylon, it was Nebuchadnezzar. But who was Nebuchadnezzar? Well, he was the king of Babylon. What is Babylon? A system of confusion. Babylon was a world power, but it pictured something else. That's why in the book of Revelations it says, "Come out of Babylon, my people," even though Babylon had been destroyed for almost 600 years. So there's a spiritual Babylon, a Babylon in the last days that we're called out of. It is the devil's organization. The devil, John, actually, in 1 John 5, we can turn to it here. Let's see here. "And we know that we are of Elohim, but the whole world lies in the wicked one." Okay? The whole world. The devil has deceived the whole world. And he has fashioned it and created it according to his own liking. His system runs on these three unclean elements that you're very familiar with if you live in this world. We all are. One is politics. One is big business, commerce, and one is religion. So these are the three unclean elements that run his system. And these three elements are the devil's brainchild. And over these elements, he is God in this world. So he is the mighty one over these things. But so, actually, let's go to Corinthians. Let's see here. 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 3. 2 Corinthians 4, verse 3. "But if our good news be hid, it is hid to them that are lost, in whom the God of this world has blinded the minds of them which believe not, lest the light of the magnificent good news of the Messiah, who is in the image of Elohim, should shine unto them." So this, if someone doesn't have the truth, they are blinded to the truth by the god of this world. Who is the god of this world? Satan, the devil. It is he that has deceived the whole world. Revelations 12, verse 9 brings out, these are scriptures you got to know to know which world you're living in and which world you got to come out of. Now, it has nothing to do with the planet Earth. It has nothing to do with this beautiful creation the Almighty made. We're talking about the system that we live in, that people live in all over the earth. It's not just one system. There's many systems, but all of them is called the world, or the system of things, and they all are a system of deception. Now, verse 9 of Revelation 12 says, the great dragon which was cast out, that old serpent called the devil, and Satan, which deceived the whole world. Okay, so if he deceived the whole world, he deceived the whole world. In Isaiah 14, it tells us that the king of Babylon is Lucifer. So we find that, and he is the devil. So we find that the king of Babylon is the head of gold, and Nebuchadnezzar pictured the real king of Babylon, that it was the devil. And so once you understand that he is the top of this organization, you can start to understand this vision. Now, verse 39, and after thee shall arise another kingdom inferior to thee, and another kingdom of brass, which shall bear rule over the earth. So the silver, which we found out was the head of gold, and his breast, his arms were silver. This is the kingdom or realm that was inferior to the gold. This, if it's actually a step down, it's inferior. This is actually begins the chain of command of how his organization works. Now, so this what represents the silver represents the first angel that the devil corrupted. The first, so he's a demon, the first one that he got to follow him, and this is actually what is directly beneath him, and another kingdom of brass directly beneath that. And it says here in verse 32 that his belly and his thighs were of brass. So what we see is the upper body, the head, and the arms and the belly are made up of, the head is gold, the belly, the arms and chest are silver, and the belly is brass. And so this is the upper part of his organization. And so directly beneath the silver is the brass. Now the brass is still in the heavens, because it says here, and it's actually the lowest portion of the invisible realm, which is actually, it says, and another third kingdom of brass, which shall bear rule over all the earth. Now, bearing rule over all the earth, why does it mention that this realm or sphere of influence is ruling over the earth? Because that's the one that does rule over the earth. The other ones are above this. Now, it says in the Psalms, I'm actually going to turn to it here. Hold on. Psalms. I think it's Psalms 8. I'm not going off any notes or anything, so I'm just sharing from my memory and my heart. So I think it's Psalms 8. Let me see here. Yes. Verse 4 and 5. What is man that you are mindful of him, and the son of man that you visit him? For you have made him a little lower than the angels, and have crowned him with honor and majesty. So man is directly beneath the angels. And so what would be above man would be the angels. Okay? So in the heavens, you have a chain of command. Now the devil said he would be like the Most High in Isaiah 14. And so his government, his system, his organization is based on the Most High's, because the devil can't do something original. He's actually doing something actually a mimic of the Most High. And so what he has done is he's placed himself at the top, and his first convert, or the first one he deceived, which actually, if you will have to do this, get deeper into it, but in the Hebrew, if you look into the Hebrew of Ezekiel 38 and 39, it says it's a prophecy against Gog, Rosh, Meshach, and Tubal. And so this actually correlates to these metals here. Gog, rooftop or covering, represents the gold, and that means and then Rosh means the chief or the beginning. And so that was the beginning of the devil's corruption, and the one he got to follow him. And so it's called Rosh he's called Rosh in Ezekiel 38. And then directly beneath them is Meshach, and these are the ones that are persuaded. These are the ones that are drawn by force. So they were actually corrupted themselves. So this represents the demons that actually followed the devil and his Rosh. And so they make up the brass. Now they bear rule directly over the earth. Now, directly beneath that in the vision in verse 33 of Daniel 2, it says his legs were iron. Now in verse 40, it says the fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron. Or, the kingdom is not necessarily the best interpretation. It should be like realm or sphere of influence. Is strong as iron. Okay, now for as much as iron breaks into pieces and subdues all things, and as iron that breaks all things, it shall break in pieces. Now this represents the earthly portion. Now Yahweh uses these symbols in the Torah in Isaiah 28 and 23. This is like in the prophet's language. They understood this through the Holy Spirit. Deuteronomy 28. Now remember I said the brass, it represents the heavens, and with the angelic realm or the demonic realm in the devil's organization, which rules directly over the earth, which is the iron in his organization, which represents politics, commerce, and religion, which is a hard, unyielding, and mean, cold system. It breaks and subdues it. It's unyielding. It's not nice. It's not nurturing. It's not fruitful. It's a destructive system. And Deuteronomy 28, speaking to Israel and telling them if they are disobedient, that they would actually be cast into the devil's organization. Because remember, they were actually taken out and given a little piece of the kingdom, but they did disobey. And he says, if you will not obey, and he goes on, these things will happen. But one of the things in verse 23, it says, your heaven that is over your head shall be brass, and the earth that is under your feet shall be iron. So basically what that's saying in symbolic language is that you're going to be cast out of Yahweh's organization. You're going to be thrown back into the devil's organization, where your heavens, you're going to be, the demons are going to be above you, and the devil's system you're going to have to live in. So the heavens of brass and the earth of iron. That's what he's telling them there. And when we find out that the Israel of flesh was scattered throughout the world and went into exile, and now even the land of Israel, the nation of Israel that they call the nation of Israel, is actually just a part of the world, a part of this brass and iron. So it definitely happened. And so we see here little bits and pieces of this Daniel 2. And it's amazing how that Deuteronomy 28 goes with this Daniel 2. So this is some beautiful prophecies being explained, being shared. Definitely opened up my eyes to the beauty of how perfect Yahweh's word is, and how important it is that we understand what this system is that we're living in, why the world is so dark, why the world is lost, and so that we can come out of it, to realize that the world is sick, and there really is no healing for Babylon. The only hope is to turn to the Most High's kingdom, and we're going to get right back into these things, and to know that victory is a must. And we're going to take a little break, though, and go to this. So stay tuned. You are tuned into the Kingdom Road Radio Show.
You're listening to the Kingdom Road Radio Show on Messianic Lamb Radio, promoting a lifestyle of hope.
Hello, this is Deborah Clark, and I'm happy to share with you my new song, Arise, Shine. For your light has come, and the godly music put to scripture from the book of Isaiah 60, verses 1 through 9. This song tells the prophetic story of Israel.
Shall rise upon you, and His glory shall be seen upon you, and the nations shall come to your light, and Elohim to the brightness of your rising.
Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of Adonai has arisen upon you.
They come to you, and your sons shall come from far, and your daughters shall be nursed at your side, and you shall see and flow together.
Arise, shine from the Mount Zion CD, available for digital download now. Shalom.
Shall return to you. The wealth of the nations shall come to you.
Welcome back to the Kingdom Road Radio Show, live here on Messianic Lamb Radio, promoting a lifestyle of hope.
Right now they serve because of evil lures. They prosper in their evil ways. Whoa, whoa. They will soon be cut off. Hey, yeah, yeah. Well, out of fire must burn, burn. Yeah, and the children will learn, yeah. Well, out of fire must burn. Speak the judgment, hey. Yeah, and the table will turn. Yeah, well, I sight and I see slavery still exists. If you don't believe me, then listen to this. Just because you don't see no change upon their feet and wrist, mentally and physically they still captive. In Mexico, Jamaica land, Indonesia, Africa, Afghanistan, the slave master completing his plan, raping and robbing people and land. Well, out of fire must burn, burn, yeah. And the children will learn, yeah. Well, out of fire must burn, that will burn, yeah, and the table will turn, yeah. Well, I come to burn down the plantation land, hot of fire burn Uncle Sam. Judgment, they ban the Ku Klux Klan, and once again, the Vatican. You're not quitting workers wherever you stand. Your heritage is desolation. Your kingdom is at hand. Better repent for your sin. A lot of fire must burn, burn, yeah. Land the children will learn, yeah. A lot of fire must burn. I will burn, hey, and the tables will turn. It's all over, turn. I say, a lot of fire must burn, burn, yeah. And the children will learn, yeah. A lot of fire must burn. Judgment, hey, and the tables will turn, yeah. But this is a song of hope, a song of freedom, 'cause everything has its time and season. It's not no joke, no, I'm not teasing. I said the blessings are yours for keep, and it's joy over grief, hey, happiness over sorrow, righteousness and peace. You see me working for the bright tomorrow. Out of fire must burn, burn, yeah. Yeah, and the children will learn, yeah. Well, out of fire must burn.
Yes, my brothers and sisters, Hatafaya. I was just thinking about, I was outside actually, and I was looking at the mezuzah. I just got a little fresh air and was looking at the mezuzah on my doorpost and thinking about how beautiful it is that Yahweh gave us Torah. Is thinking back to the Exodus and Israel being taken out of Egypt, and how Pharaoh was another type of the devil in Egypt, the devil system that holds the people in bondage. The people are in bondage today out of ignorance. They don't know the Almighty. They don't know His purpose. And so that's what we're talking about today, how our brothers and sisters are going to be gathered from the four corners of the earth. There's so many good people out there scattered and divided, and they fall. They might support one side or another in different aspects of the world. They might take a stand on certain topics, or don't take a stand on certain issues. But, the truth is what's going to unite us. The call to come out of Babylon. These people are waiting for a better way. These people are searching for the truth. They want to be set free. They know something's not right. And that's what this is all about. That's why this call of the Messiah, this call of Israel is a message of hope, calling out to all those people that are seeking that truth. And, what we find here is that we've been talking about this vision that Nebuchadnezzar had, and as explained, the head of gold represented the king of Babylon, the real king of Babylon, the devil, and then the invisible realm that underneath him, the silver and the brass representing the demonic forces, the silver representing the first angel that corrupted himself and followed the devil, and the brass representing the rest, the multitude that were drawn by force, the force of enticement, this force of selfishness. They wanted to overthrow the universe, so they followed the devil, and so they're going to lose in the end. But it says in Revelations 12 that's 1/3 of the angels that fell, following the devil. So that is a lot of them. And so what we find here is that Paul explains to us, Shaul explains to us that we don't fight against flesh and blood, but there is a war, and it's a spiritual war. We fight against spiritual wickedness in high and low places. So there's the spiritual wickedness is what we're wrestling against. But you see it manifesting in this world as something. And as I brought out earlier, the whole world is in the hand of the wicked one. It says in 1 John 5:19, and the devil, the God of this world, has blinded the minds of the people. He has deceived the whole world. Now, how has he done this? It's through this politics, commerce, and religion, which is what the iron in this vision is. And actually, I'm going to read this clarified translation. It says, the fourth kingdom, this is verse 40 again, the fourth kingdom shall be as strong as iron, for as much as iron beats into dust and crushes and protects as iron, which breaks in pieces and shatters all these and breaks through. Okay, now we did talk about the brass will rule over the earth. And so the iron therefore represents that which is directly beneath the brass, and which is directly, if you're ruling over, it represents the earth. And the visible, to make it not the physical planet Earth, but the visible ruling element. So you have the invisible ruling element of the devil, which was the gold, the silver, and the brass, and now the visible ruling element, which is the iron, which is politics, commerce, and religion. And like I said in Psalms 8, verse 4 and 6, what is man that thou art mindful of him? The Son of Man that you visit him, for you have made him a little lower than the angels, and have crowned him with glory and honor. Thou hast made him to have dominion over the works of thy hands, and thou hast put all things under his feet. So we understand that Israel was, and I'm going to read it again, Israel, if they were promised blessings if they were obedient to Yahweh. And it actually says this in Deuteronomy 28, 1 and 2, if you obey and keep the voice of Yahweh your God faithfully, keeping and observing all those commandments of his that I enjoin upon you today, Yahweh your God will set you high above all the nations of the earth. All the blessings that flow shall come up with you and overtake you, if only you obey the voice of Yahweh their God. Now these blessings were there for them, but the condition was that they must obey. But if they did not obey the voice, they would they would have to face the curses, and one of these curses was that verse 23 says, "Heavens above you will be brass, and the earth beneath you iron." So, and this has already taken place, as I did bring out. Now Yahweh is calling forth his Israel out of this world and giving us a shot at his kingdom. And then we know that the Israel promise is made up of people of the proper heart condition that will serve him. Now, if you read the New English version, the New English Bible version of translation of verse 40, it says, "And there shall be a fourth kingdom strong as iron shatters and destroys all things, it shall break and shatter the whole earth." Okay, now this actually this is how destructive the devil system is. It is, and we must remember again that verse 28 says that the God of heaven has made known the secret of what will take place in the last days. That this vision is to be understood in the last days is going to take place in the last days. And again, the vision was seen in its entirety. Now, so what it's speaking of here is the conditions of the world in the last days, and it's a destructive world. The visible ruling element of the devil is destructive, and it's going to actually give us more detail how the system is going to be set up and how it is set up. Actually, it's the world that we're living in, and we're going to find out here in verse 41. "Whereas you saw the feet and the toes," which would be the last part of this image, potter's clay, part of potter's clay and part of iron. "The kingdom shall be divided, but there shall be in it strength of iron, for as much as thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay." Now I'm going to read a clarified translation. It says, "And whereas you saw the feet and toes, part of sherds of clay taken from a potter and part of iron, it shall be a divided kingdom, but its main hardness shall be in the iron, for as much as you saw iron combined with it becoming dressing of clay." Now notice, it's actually just calling it one kingdom, but it's actually a divided kingdom. Now, this represents the two main forms of government that control the world today. The clay representing the democracies, and the iron representing the communist socialistic order. Now, this was was greatly divided and stood in opposition for many years. It's known as the Cold War. And the world was in threat of nuclear disaster. And now we've made it to even another part of this prophecy where you're starting to see the king of iron and the king of clay be more diplomatic. They're starting to work things out, even talking about getting rid of some of their nuclear weapons. And it's starting to look like there's hope for them working together. And you still see that there's a strong communist influence with Russia and China, and you still see that America and Britain are still going for world domination, and so they still have their own agendas, but you're finding that they're starting to try to work together on certain issues. Now this is actually part of it. Actually, the prophecy goes on to say that they're going to actually unite for a short time. But the thing is that the whole system is iron. That's why the earth is called iron first, and then the very bottom, the feet and toes are part iron and clay, meaning that there's the democracies make it look like it's actually good. Right now, people are starting to look at the Independence Day and all the stuff that people celebrate. I have no part in those things. I do not. These nations were not. These nations were the designs of men and of the enemy. And the only kingdom the Almighty has ever sponsored is His kingdom. He called Israel out, and He's going to create His kingdom, which has nothing to do with any of the nations of this world. And that's what we're here talking about today. And so the democracies, however, will make their system look virtuous, and they will endeavor to cover up the ugly workings of the system with their clay. That makes it look like it's pretty, but also represents a weakness, because the good thing about it is that we do have the ability to preach and share the good news, and even though there is a lot of injustice and all these things, we actually have the right to freedom of press and freedom of speech and freedom of worship of our Creator, and I do give thanks for these things, and we're going to use it to the fullness. We're going to spread this good news, and we're going to keep on sharing this beautiful message. But as far as describing how the world is today. We find Isaiah chapter 59, verse 14 and 15 in the Smith translation. It says this, and it's really very good, describes it very well. Justice has been driven back, and righteousness stands afar off. Truth stumbles in the public place, and honesty can find no entrance. Truth is not to be found, and he who shuns evil makes himself an easy mark. Yahweh saw with displeasure that there was no justice. In this system of, unjust gain, and is basically like legalized thievery, is a corrupt system, and those who actually gain, those who have will actually gain more, and those who don't have will actually have less. But Yahweh is going to put an end to it, and there's going to be justice and righteousness in His kingdom. There will be a fair trade, and we won't even need money. He's got a beautiful purpose for this earth, and there is a message of hope, and you're going to see an end to all this sorrow and lack of righteousness, and truth will always be there for you. So we'll finish this vision off and this prophecy when we come back, but we're going to take a little break, and you are tuned in to the Kingdom Road Radio Show.
The light of Zion, Kingdom Road. Redemption time has come, Kingdom Road. Kingdom Road. We always in the sun, Kingdom Road. The Lamb of Zion, Kingdom Road. Redemption time has come, Kingdom Road.
We are richly blessed to bring you what we believe is the fullest, most diverse, yet up-to-date progressive teachings, discussion, and prayer programming you can find anywhere on this planet. Be sure to take the tour of the MessianicLambRadio.com website. I'm Susan Hoogie, thanking you for joining us on the Messianic Lamb Video Network.
Mira, joda, déjense parar.
We'll be dancing in the streets, dancing at His feet, dancing in the New Jerusalem. And we will sing Kadosh, Kadosh to the Lord of hosts, joining in the angels' choir. And forever we will.
Okay. Well, as all of us on Messianic Lamb Network know, and as I learned the first time I did a broadcast on Thursday's War Room Warriors, that I learned from your beautiful wife is to watch your background. Bob comes wandering through out of the bedroom. I mean, he was fully dressed. So he was walking through, and she says,
Right.
she sent me a private, thing saying, watch your background. Somebody's walking around. You've seen that with that strange man that was walking around in Sandy's
I
house.
remember.
That you had all that. We have learned to watch our backgrounds, to position our cameras so that you don't see what's in our backgrounds. And of course, all of us know that really and truly, you only have to look good from the waist up. Well, the media, the news media that's on almost every day, now that this COVID-19 thing is out there, they have had to broadcast from wherever they were, like in their house. Well, they had some very interesting things happen because they do not know how to watch what's going on in their background. One lady was broadcasting, and guess what was in her background? She was in her bedroom, and like y'all see over here to my side, y'all can see into my dining room. Right there was her husband in the bathroom in a clear shower, taking a shower while she was broadcasting.
Oh my gosh.
Another guy had his, actually she was his mistress is what they said. And he's broadcasting and she walks through scantily clad.
Oh my gosh.
And then the other one was, I said, you only have to look good from the waist up. There was a guy that had on his suit coat and his tie and everything. And he had his camera angled to where you could see he was either sitting in his boxer shorts or a pair of shorts. I think it might have been his boxer shorts, but it could have been but you could tell he didn't position his camera from the waist up. So I thought that was funny because they're the so-called professionals, and they're just, I thought that was hilarious. So those are basics that we have to watch out for. See, y'all never knew this stuff went on the network. All this kind of stuff that we have to learn. Right. Fortunately, we did not learn them the hard way because we have Adina and Mark to keep us straight and to warn us of the pitfalls.
We try to.
And what's funny too is if you look today in some of these shows that they're doing, kind of like what we're doing here on the media and stuff, a lot of people don't have their makeup artists. So some of these women are wearing hats. Some of these women, they can't even do their own makeup because they've for years had somebody else do their own makeup to where you'll hear somebody go, honey. And these are professionals.
Professionals. I tell you, and what was it? Joe Biden, he was sitting there and had the window open and a gaggle of geese came through honking.
Wow.
He had a flyby.
That's good. That's good.
That's why my office door is locked, and I tape on there. I said, "Do not disturb."
There was one time you were doing one show, and somebody was weed eating outside your window.
Oh yeah, that was the landscapers here. They'll be doing that again on Thursdays. That's their day to mow and weed eat. So we'll probably hear them again if the window's open.
I had one, y'all couldn't see it, but you could see my face look like somebody just knocked me in the back of the head with a 2x4. I went, because I had a cow coming across my yard.
That happened during war room.
There's a cow in my yard.
That happened during war room. I remember that.
I love it.
They can step out in the road and cause a serious accident. So, that's for y'all who don't live in the country. If you're out in the country and you see a cow loose, call the highway patrol and tell them where you saw it. We saw one years ago, well, not too long ago, maybe 2 years ago, a big old bull wandering around, and I called the highway patrol and says, we've been looking for him for weeks.
Very cool. Very, very cool. Do either one of you ever watch the Tonight Show, Jimmy Fallon's Tonight Show?
I watch it with Johnny Carson. Nobody will ever be better than him.
You mean the latest one?
Jimmy Fallon. What about him?
What, Joe? What'd you say?
I said the latest ones where his son does the little song and the little picture comes up of the drawing.
Well, he has two daughters.
Or the daughter.
Jimmy Fallon's, of course, since the quarantine, he's been broadcasting. What's that?
I was thinking Jimmy Kimmel.
Yeah, no, he's been broadcast. Well, I don't know what I never watched Jimmy Kimmel, though I really like him. Jimmy Fallon has been broadcasting from home. He has two daughters, and his two daughters have been a major part of the show. I mean, all the beginnings, they write out the names of everything. Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon's all done in crayon and all that kind of stuff. And when he does his little skits, they're always a part of, what's going on. And then he does interviews just as though he's doing the Tonight Show, only the interviews are with people that are at home. For instance, I watched one with Arnold Schwarzenegger last night. And the cool thing to me is, of course, I kind of like the interviews for most of them. I pick and choose which ones I'm going to watch. But I like seeing their homes because they're really in their home. And you get to kind of see what they want you to see, but it's really kind of cool. And I like the idea. It's kind of like Jimmy Fallon's just now catching up with what we've been doing for years.
And Jimmy Kimmel does pretty much the same thing as
does he?
Picture that he drew of him and says, and he sings, Jimmy Kimmel Live. I mean, it's a little kid's voice. It's really cute. And so yeah, I think they've become more creative being at home and doing that than what we've seen in the background.
They've had to work.
Mark, I was going to say, are you really seeing their home, really, or is it a green background and they're making their home?
Oh yeah,
really? Just a little conspiracy thrown out there.
Yeah, I don't know about the other ones, but I'm real sure Jimmy Fallon's is his house because of all the different things, the places they're at and what they're using and stuff like that.
I'm going to tell them.
It couldn't be a green screen, because they're actually using their background and stuff.
Right.
Anyway, I think
Can I tell on myself real quick on that, Mark?
Yeah, go ahead.
You had a green screen up that like had a piano and all this, and I was sitting there looking at it, and I kept thinking, did Mark and Adina move? Are they at somebody's house? I didn't realize it was a green screen. Yes, I kept saying, did they move? I thought, wow, they're staying at a really nice place. I'm just sitting there, and then it dawned on me. I thought, duh.
That would be the biggest home ever.
That's our double wide.
You're double wide.
You sure it's not a triple wide?
Yeah, and then of course every once in a while I'm in my shower. So
at least you have your clothes on. This guy did not. I had it blocked out, but it was on.
They're starting to make it to where you don't need a green screen anymore.
Oh, really?
Yeah, at least Zoom has that where you can put, if you want to put a background, you can put a background in there, and it doesn't need the green screen. Because I'm painting my wall green. Sorry.
Adina and I were talking about Zoom last night and thinking that, I don't know if I should say this or not because she said it, I didn't. We wondered if Zoom's not the one that got the coronavirus started, because you hear about Zoom everywhere. It's Zoom this, Zoom that. It's even in your when I did research on yesterday's contemplating the Constitution, and it was like in other words, Pelosi being able to vote because they didn't have a quorum. And so they had literally an article on voting by Zoom, and I mean, there's all kinds of other features like StreamYard, like what we use, and Skype, and many other ways you could do it. But how come Zoom is everywhere? It's constant. All the shows are talking about, okay, we're doing this via Zoom. Why do you have to say that? It's like, so anyway, it kind of makes me wonder.
It's a lot of trigger words. If you look today, many trigger words,
That's right.
There's now masks, goggles, Zoom, and vaccines. What's another trigger word?
I'm with you.
Oh, social
distancing. Me, I'll tell you what. No. I'll tell you what, the worst flu I ever had was when I took the flu vaccine, and my doctor told me, he said, don't you ever take it again. There's something in it that you are highly allergic to. I was sick for like 3 weeks, went back to work, and they were like, you look horrible. You need to go back home.
We are richly blessed to bring you what we believe is the fullest, most diverse, yet up-to-date progressive teachings, discussion, and prayer programming you can find anywhere on this planet. Be sure to take the tour of the MessianicLambRadio.com website. I'm Susan Hoogie, thanking you for joining us on the Messianic Lamb Video Network.
We'll be dancing in the streets, dancing at his feet, dancing in the New Jerusalem. And we will sing Kadosh, Kadosh to the Lord of hosts, joining in the angels' choir. And forever we will be.
Don't go away, your show will start after a brief pause.